Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharyya Ashtadharshata Shri Srimad Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Do you know where Soul is? Do you think you could go check in his room? He might be. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So 6th canto, prescribed duties for mankind, chapter 17, Mother Parvati curses Citraketu, text 8. Priyashaha. If everybody could please repeat after me. Prakritash Chapi Striyam Rahasi Bibrati Vayam Maha Vratadaro Pibarti Sadasi Striyam Priyasha Prakatashtapi Striyam Rahasi Bibrati Ayam Mahavratadaro Bibrati Sadasi Striyam Priyasha Prakatashtapi Striyam Rahasi Bibrati Ayam Mahavratodaro Bibrati Sadasi Striyam Prayasha Prakatashtapi striyam rahasi bibrati ayam mahavratadaro bibarti sadasi striyam. Find them? Can you please bring that table with the clock on it? Can you put it over here, please? Can you put it over here? Thank you. Prayashaha, generally, prakritaha, conditioned souls, cha, also, api, although, striyam, a woman, rahasi, in a solitary place, bibrati, embrace, ayam, this, Lord Śiva, mahavratadaraha, the master of great vows and austerities, bibarti, enjoys, sadasi, in an assembly of great saintly persons, striyam, his wife. Translation, commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Ordinary conditioned persons generally embrace their wives and enjoy their company in solitary places. How wonderful it is that Lord Mahadev, although a great master of austerity, is embracing his wife openly in the midst of an assembly of great saints. Purport. The word Mahavrata indicates a brahmachari who has never fallen down. Lord Śiva is counted among the best of yogis, yet he embraced his wife in the midst of great saintly persons. Citraketu appreciated how great Lord Śiva was to be unaffected even in that situation. Therefore, Citraketu was not an offender, he merely expressed his wonder. All right, next. Shri Shukavacha Bhagavan Apitaj Trutva Prahasya Gada Dhira Nirpa Tushnim Prabhu Sadasi Sabhyascha Tad Anuvrataha. Srila Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, after hearing Citraketu's statement, Lord Śiva, the most powerful personality whose knowledge is fathomless, simply smiled and remained silent. And all the members of the assembly followed the Lord by not saying anything. Purport. Citraketu's purpose in criticizing Lord Śiva was somewhat mysterious and cannot be understood by a common man. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, however, has made the following observations. Lord Śiva, being the most exalted Vaishnav and one of the most powerful demigods, is able to do anything he desires. Although he was externally exhibiting the behavior of a common man and not following etiquette, such actions cannot diminish his exalted position. The difficulty is that a common man, seeing Lord Shiva's behavior, might follow his example, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 3:21. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tat eva taro janaha sa yat pramanam kurite lokas tat anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. A common man might also criticize Lord Shiva, like Daksha, who suffered the consequences for his criticism. Citraketu desired that Lord Shiva cease this external behavior so that others might be saved from criticizing him and thus becoming offenders. If one thinks that Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the only perfect personality, whereas the demigods, even such demigods as Lord Shiva, are inclined to improper social affairs, he is an offender. Considering all this, King Citraketu was somewhat harsh in his behavior with Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, who is always deep in knowledge, could understand Citraketu's purpose, and therefore he was not at all angry. Rather, he simply smiled and remained silent. The members of the assembly surrounding Lord Shiva could also understand Citraketu's purpose. Consequently, following the behavior of Lord Shiva, they did not protest. Instead, following their master, they remained silent. If the members of the assembly thought that Citraketu blasphemed Lord Shiva, they would certainly have left at once, blocking their ears with their hands. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translations again. Ordinary conditioned persons generally embrace their wives and enjoy their company in solitary places. How wonderful it is that Lord Mahadev, although a great master of austerity, is embracing his wife openly in the midst of an assembly of great saints. Srila Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, after hearing Citraketu's statement, Lord Shiva, the most powerful personality, whose knowledge is fathomless, simply smiled and remained silent. And all the members of the assembly followed the Lord by not saying anything. Lord Shiva, as being depicted here in the pages of the Bhagavatam, was seen by Citraketu Maharaj while he was flying around in an airplane. He looked and he saw Lord Shiva and with Parvati on his lap, and he started to laugh and, you could say, criticize that particular action of Lord Shiva. And here it's being mentioned that Lord Shiva he simply smiled and remained silent, so he didn't react. And also the members of his assembly followed the same protocol as Lord Shiva. They also didn't react. And there is a difference being made between, for example, Daksha Maharaj or Daksha, which was in the 4th canto, because Daksha was an offender to Lord Shiva. But here, Citraketu Maharaj's criticism or his finding fault in Lord Shiva is not of the same nature as Daksha. It's quite different. And as Srila Prabhupada explains in the first purport, he said that he was just expressing wonder, like, oh wow, this is amazing, like, what is Lord Shiva doing? It's not necessarily that he was thinking less of him, or he wasn't understanding his position, or he didn't like him, you could say, or was envious of him. He was just surprised. He was going, what's going on here? Why is Lord Shiva doing this in the assembly of great sages? And later on, and throughout the chapter, this particular chapter, Prabhupada brings up different points in the purports, which could look like he's going back and forth. That, okay, well, Shiva became, or Citraketu Maharaj, he was a little proud because he was a great devotee of Sankarshan, and he was thinking he was better, right? So he's going back and forth. But anyways, within this particular verses and purport, Srila Prabhupada, and it's just being stressed that he was just surprised, expressing his wonder. And you could say expressing some type of worry that, okay, well, if Lord Shiva does this, what will an ordinary man do? Right? Because whatever a great man does, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, as stated in the purport, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So it's a principle of acharya, right? Teaching by example. So he was worried about that. What will people think? He wasn't thinking less of Lord Shiva, at least it's being mentioned like that here. But what will other people think? And of course, for modern people, it's like, so what? I mean, Lord Shiva was embracing his wife in front of his sages. Like, who cares? What's the big deal? I mean, that's what everybody does in the world, right? But at least in traditional Vedic culture, they don't at all do that, any kind of display of affection or anything like that, public. It's just against the rules. With the idea was to, because the principle is within Vedic culture, there's very important quality of self-control. Because without self-control, one's life becomes ruined practically. So in order to help all the members of society, there are certain rules, certain etiquette to help people in the matter of self-control, which is nowadays, I mean, it's the last thing people are thinking of self-control. I don't even think they're thinking about it. What to speak of the last thing? They're not even thinking about it, self-control. But here in the purport, second purport, it's mentioned, a common man might also criticize Lord Shiva like Daksha, who suffered the consequences for its criticism. So it's being mentioned that Daksha, he criticized Lord Shiva, and therefore he suffered for that. That's in the 4th canto. There were some severe reactions. It's quite a scene, actually. And in that particular section of, or you could say, not in that particular section, but in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, it describes what is some of the reactions for one who is an offender. Ayushtriyam yashodharmam lokan ashisha eva cha hanti shreyamsi sarvani pumsa mahad atikramaha. It says, my dear king, when a man persecutes great souls, all his benedictions of longevity, beauty, fame, religion, blessings, and promotion to higher planets will be destroyed. So in other words, one becomes thoroughly, you could say, unfortunate. By blaspheming great souls. Then we say, okay, well, who is a great soul? What do we say? Who's a great soul?
One who's endeavoring to serve Krishna.
Yeah, one who's endeavoring to serve Krishna. That's true. Any other? Mahatmanas tu mamparta daivam prakritamashita. Those who have come into control of the spiritual energy, they've surrendered to Krishna, they're Mahatmas. So yeah, there's different definitions. Titikshava, Karunaka, Surida, Sarvadehinam. Lord Kapila Dev says, generally the sadhus or saintly persons are described by having good qualities, 26 in number. And out of all those qualities, there's one that is the most important. You remember the younger devotees? Remember what that is? Out of all the 26 qualities? Surrender to Krishna. Of course, different places it states there's different most important qualities, but Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Harinam Chintamani, he mentions that this principle of surrender, or this quality of surrender to Krishna, is the most important. Yeah, others come from that. Exactly. But we see that sometimes people, they accept Krishna as their only shelter, and they accept Krishna consciousness as you could say, their particular, they accept it as the path of God realization, of self-realization. But, so you could say they have that quality, accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their only shelter, but then they may not be displaying the particular qualities, the other 25 qualities, or maybe to different degrees, lesser degrees, or more degrees they're displaying those qualities, or maybe some of the qualities not displaying at all. And then this becomes a great cause for disturbance amongst atheist people. Say, oh, look at, that guy is just like everybody else. I mean, he's lusty, he's greedy, he's angry. He doesn't seem to be very friendly. Okay, he's surrendered to Krishna, apparently, but what about the other qualities? Or it may become a disturbing element in the society of Vaishnavas, because they may see that, hey, this person, okay, they're surrendered to Krishna, they accept Krishna as their life and soul, but I still see some qualities that aren't so nice. So it becomes a disturbance, right? No one wants to admit to that? Okay, we'll move on. It becomes a disturbance. I know it does. Just travel to any of the temples. You'll see every single temple they have a problem with other devotees, management, other devotees, based on them displaying particular qualities that they see as outside of the realm of bhakti, bad qualities, right? So it's a difficult thing to actually deal with for people. But here in this particular chapter, there's this chapter called Criticizing Saintly Persons. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is talking about having a conversation. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur having a conversation. Haridas Thakur's responding, kind of like Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But the 10 offenses are being spoke about or written about here. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that if perchance the marginal symptoms have not reached full maturity in a surrendered sadhu, so the other qualities of a devotee have not developed, or he says here, have not reached full maturity in a surrendered sadhu, and instead some serious discrepancies in character are visible in him, then he is still to be respected as a sadhu or saintly soul. So it's saying that the person is taken to Krishna consciousness, but they have not, but the qualities haven't reached full maturity. They should still be accepted as a saintly soul. Now, sometimes people may say, "Okay, well, we shouldn't offend devotees." Well, that guy's not a devotee. They'll say that. And they say, well, what is he? Oh, he's a demon, right? Of course, that's quite extreme. Or they may say, okay, well, he's a neophyte devotee. But here it's mentioning there's obviously an element of neophyteness in this description. It means he hasn't reached the mature platform of these qualities manifesting. But still, they should be accepted as a saintly person. This is the verdict of the scriptures as expressed in Lord Krishna's own words in the Bhagavad Gita. A profound philosophical truth is revealed by this verse, and we are aware of it only due to your mercy. Now, another thing, because the question is, okay, well, what can we criticize a sadhu for? What's justified, right? What's a case for criticizing a devotee? Everyone wants to know that, right? When can I? When can I have some fun? I'm just joking. But they want to know, when can I criticize a saintly person? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, is it offensive to criticize a sadhu for past sins? When one has developed a real taste for chanting, then the single utterance of the holy name can eradicate all previous sins. Some vestiges of sinful reaction may still remain in a particular individual, but these also are gradually removed by the process of chanting. As these last traces of sin disappear, he emerges a pure devotee. Of course, the lingering traces of sin are seen by common man as sins. But if a saintly person is criticized because of the traces of almost extirpated sin in his character, that is egregious offense. So it's saying that a person's taken to Krishna consciousness, becoming purified, and there may look like there's some sinful reaction still manifest in their character. But it is being purified. So to criticize that's considered a grievous offense. If criticism is made against a sadhu for sins committed prior to his surrendering to Krishna, so it's talking about at present, right? Just a minute ago, talking about at present, means he's overcoming certain things, shouldn't be criticized. But then it's saying, if a criticism is made against a sadhu for sins committed prior to his surrendering to Krishna, oh, he was sinful before he came to Krishna consciousness, and then we'll criticize him for that. As if Lord Chaitanya is not the deliverer of Jagai and Madai, Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya not the deliverer of Jagai and Madai. In other words, as if the people are so hopeless that they can never become purified. Or acharyas, for example. They may be dealing with heavy conditioning, but first of all, that shouldn't be criticized, but they can rise. Okay, that is likewise another serious offense, sins committed prior to taking Krishna. Such a fault finder surely invites the wrath of Lord Krishna. Oh man, that sounds like the wrath of Lord Krishna. So that's one thing. Another point he brings up, an offender against a sadhu is one who criticizes a Vaishnav about his caste. I mean, one thing is that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, we're not, right? He said, I'm not a Brahmin or Kshatriya, Vaishnava or Shudra or Vanaprastha or Grihastha, Brahmachari, Sannyasi. In other words, these are all designations in the Vedic system. So he says he's not those. And by the way, those particular stations in life or inclinations that people work in, they do not they do not, that's not the sign of a saintly person. Oh, this person's a sannyasi, this person's a grihasta, this person's a brahmin. Those are just designations, but the sign are the particular qualities, specifically the quality of surrender of Krishna, from which all the other qualities come. So another thing about criticizing, an offender against a sadhu is one who criticizes a Vaishnava about his caste, some unpremeditated accidental fall down. So, to criticize someone on some unpremeditated accidental fall down. Now, how unpremeditated is it? Was the fall down. Fall down means there's certain principles of morality, right, that a Vaishnava or devotee lives by, and people fall from that. A devotee falls from that. So we say, well, now, if somebody has that quality of Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my life is meant to be dedicated to Him, or they're displaying sincerity in different ways, part of which they want to keep the association of devotees. They want to, they have appreciation for Krishna consciousness. I mean, so in other words, how much is it, how much are they just being unfortunately dragged by their mind and senses? A sincere soul dragged by their mind and senses. That's like the, what do you call it? It's like the story of people in the material, a lot of people in the material world. A lot of people fall into that category, actually. I don't want to depress anybody and give statistics, but a lot of people fall into that category. And you could say, okay, well, he's, I don't know, I mean, he's not exactly sincere. But there's a lot of different devotees and neophytes also. This also, I mean, it's not that they want to overcome it. They want to progress, but they're conditioned. So they shouldn't be criticized on unpremeditated accidental fall down. Also, it says the last traces of his previous sins. I mean, last traces of previous sins, I mean, having a particular mind that is dragged towards sense gratification, that's actually, and senses that are dragged towards sense gratification means non-God conscious engaging senses in this world. That is actually a sinful reaction. Means that's a result of our sinful activities, to have a particular mind like that. So last traces of his previous sins means, like, one way to see it is that part of last traces of previous sins is having a particular mind and senses that are dragged away from Krishna consciousness. Or his sinful activities prior to his surrendering to Lord Krishna. This offender will never develop a taste for chanting the name. One who has taken complete shelter of the pure devotional process is considered a pure Vaishnav. The four above mentioned faults may be present in him, but he is totally free from all of the shortcomings. Hence, criticizing him spells doom for the offender. The glories of the holy name are propagated by the Vaishnav. Lord Krishna does not tolerate any criticism against him. One may discard all other activities like religiosity, yoga, sacrifices, fruitive activities, empirical knowledge, and so on. If one simply chants the holy name, that is the quintessence of spiritual culture. So, Citraketu Maharaj, again, his noticing this particular fault, it wasn't like Daksha. So it was of a different nature. But still it was considered harsh, somewhat harsh. So it's an interesting thing because, I mean, as humans, we have a choice to be harsh or not. I mean, humans could be really harsh. Like I was listening to one particular devotee give a talk, and he was saying that reasons why he stayed in Krishna consciousness for a long time. And one of the things he was brought up was, okay, Krishna was one, but another reason he said he was thinking of bringing up, but didn't bring up, was that the loving interactions between devotees. And he said, I'm not bringing that up because sometimes I see that's not the case. And he said, being in the spiritual movement, I've been hurt so many times in so many different ways, usually by words, harshness. So I can't say that. Interesting enough. In other words, he's saying as a society we need to work on that, which, anyways, is up for discussion. You know, people have different opinions, but that's what he was. Interesting point. Whereas one particular, I forgot who brought this up, but somebody went to a guest, you know, coming to a Hare Krishna temple and was telling him, oh, would you like to join the temple? And the guy said, no, that's all right. And then he said, oh, why not? And he said, I just prefer to be a guest. And he said, oh, really? Why? He says, well, because I see how you guys treat your members. So he just be a guest, you know. Everybody's very nice to the guests, and you know, especially if he gives a lot of money. And, you know, nice to the guest and this and that. But then you join and, you know, it's something else. A little more harsh, you know. I guess maybe you could say there's some, you know, you come close like a family, then become harsh with each other. But I don't know how much that's actually Vaishnava culture have. But so we have and people say, oh well, Prabhupada was harsh, right? So I could be harsh too. Well, you judge a activity by its fruit. With Prabhupada's harshness or his strongness, he was able to do a lot, spread Krishna consciousness, and inspire people to surrender their lives to Krishna. With our harshness, we inspire people to leave. So, nor do they surrender to Krishna, nor do they do anything for Krishna. They just leave. So, what type of, you know, harshness is that? Bad. So, therefore, Srila Prabhupada, on a morning walk, one time said that that criticism is a great art, he told his disciples. And then he looked at them and he said, which unfortunately you do not know. So yeah, we have a choice to be harsh or not. But again, when we're in a particular situation to be harsh or not, and we choose to be harsh, why are we choosing to be harsh? To benefit the person, or just to, what do you call? Kind of, you know, like, just kind of let the steam out, just kind of vent, you know. So we have to be careful. But Citraketu Maharaj, he was being harsh with the idea that, hey, people are going to see you, Lord Śiva, and ordinary people are going to see you, they're not going to understand. So please stop doing this. You have to be the greatest example. So anyways, more things will be brought up. And the proof that Citraketu Maharaj wasn't offensive, over the top offensive and just out of line, was that Lord Śiva didn't say anything. And his followers didn't say anything. So anyways, but we'll hear more of this particular, you know, different nuances of this particular pastime in coming verses. So does anybody have any question or a comment?
What was the verse about austerity? The third?
Let's see here. That was 8. So, ordinary conditioned persons generally embrace their wives and enjoy their company in solitary places. How wonderful it is that Lord Mahadev, although a great master of austerity, is embracing his wife openly in the midst of an assembly of great saints. So, it says a master of austerity, Lord Śiva. So Citraketu Maharaj said, wow, this is amazing. How is he doing this? He's a master of austerity. Why is he doing this? How is he doing this? This isn't good. What will people think? People will follow him also. They'll criticize him. You'll have some people who criticize him. Oh, look at, Lord Śiva. He's just acting like an ordinary sense enjoyer, right? That's on one side. And then on the other side, you'll say, oh, look at Lord Śiva. Look what he's doing. He's acting like an ordinary sense enjoyer. He's a great person. All right, I'll follow him. They got both going on. That's why if anyone's in any particular leadership position, which actually everybody is to some degree over time, whether they like it or not, if they're doing something that's questionable, then these two things are there. Someone will say, "Oh, look at that! He's a devotee, but look what he's doing," and they'll criticize it, and it will look bad for Krishna, look bad for the Hare Krishna movement, look bad for Srila Prabhupada. In other words, it will be misrepresenting, right? Now, on the other thing, someone will say, "Hey, all right, well, they're a devotee and they're doing this like an ordinary person. Well, I could do it too," and they'll follow. You actually have movements. That's how movements start, actually. So, anyways, master of austerity. Yes.
Thank you, Balaram, for this class. So speaking about criticism, what should devotees choose instead of criticizing if a person is not willing to notice or work on particular bad qualities or any misdeeds that is within them?
Should kick him out. I'm just joking. Well, one thing is that people are on different levels. Some people, they're happy just coasting, right, in Krishna consciousness, or some people are happy just, they're not really happy. It's mixed happiness, but anyways, they think they're happy just coasting in Krishna consciousness, or they think they're happy just chanting their rounds and following the principles and living a very blissful sattvic life, right? Enjoying sattva gun, or some people like to enjoy tamagun in Krishna consciousness, or rajagun in Krishna consciousness. So, and to get so in other words, it's people are on different levels. Now, someone may say, I'm seeing some faults, then I want them to be rectified. But it doesn't seem that person wants it. And if that person doesn't want it, then what can you do? So in other words, you can accept people for who they are, or you could say the particular state they're in now. You accept them. That's called actually having affection for people. And that's the problem, because people, they see the faults in others, but they have no affection for them, or very little affection for them, and therefore they tend to dislike them or hate them on that basis, which is very bad. Like in an ashram setting, for example, clearly you're living with people, you're going to see their faults, unless they're paramahamsas, but generally, it's not so easy to get paramahamsas in the ashram. Actually, not so easy to find paramahamsas. It means those of perfect character and qualities and all that. So, we'll see faults. Now, the problem comes is that when one ashramite sees another ashramite and seeing their faults, sometimes the tendency is that because they don't have affection for the person, unfortunately, then that's all they see. They don't see the good. Or you could say that they don't see past that. They don't accept that, okay, this person's sincere, this person's trying. Because in a loving relationship, generally what happens is people, they try to see past each other's faults, not always just examining other person's faults. Now, you may be aware of them and try to help them, but also that may be difficult, because maybe somebody's not willing to be helped at that particular moment. Maybe you can't just go up to somebody and just tell them everything. It's like a gradual, like the revelation of the particular faults within our heart. I mean, if Krishna was to show us that right in the beginning, when we come to Krishna consciousness, how far we are and how low we've fallen, we might become discouraged. So therefore, it's a gradual. Hey, well, you need to work on this, and some time passed. Okay, you need to work on this. It's like kind of gradual. Not like everything all at once. Anyways, I don't know if that exactly, I'm sure I'm missing something.
Yeah, thank you, Bharam. Also, we were speaking about tolerance yesterday. And is a symptom of tolerance, you can say, showing affection at the distance in certain times.
Showing affection at a distance?
Yeah.
But another thing is that affection at a distance is tolerance. Well, tolerance is like you're tolerating something that somebody's doing that's not right, or that's not good, or that's just, right? Now about that, devotees complained to Prabhupada one time, and he said, Prabhupada, the devotees are doing this. And then Prabhupada said, well, just as a cow gives milk and kicks sometimes, so you tolerate it. So the devotees are like that, right? He was given that example. But generally, we shouldn't see ourselves as tolerating the devotees. Like, I'm tolerating your presence. It's not a very positive way to see devotees. What do you think about that, Prabhu? Yeah, he's good. He does nice service, and I'm tolerating him. So, better we just leave it at he's good, he's doing nice service, and okay, sometimes he doesn't do the right thing or makes mistakes or something like that. I mean, in one sense, you could say we might be tolerating certain behaviors of people. Yeah.
Are you saying having kind and loving thoughts as affectionate, being affectionate at a distance, as far as tolerance goes?
Yeah, just respecting at the distance. But if we see that a person is not willing to, you can say,
Develop a relationship with
relationships, yeah.
Yeah, then you respect from it. So Krishna reciprocates with people accordingly, how they approach. So similarly with the living entities, how people approach us, how we approach people, there's a whole reciprocation going on. So if somebody doesn't want to have a relationship with us, then yeah, we should be friendly and, ready to have that relationship with them, even though they don't want to have it with us. But friendly and respectful, but the point is not to have all the walls up, because someone say, hey, well, he's got his walls up, so I'm going to have my walls up. But he may have his walls up, but we shouldn't have our walls up. I mean, they may not be ready and willing and really ready to reciprocate, but as soon as they are, we're there. It's not that as soon as they are that we also have our walls up and we're not ready to reciprocate. So that's, and you could say that's the difference between somebody who's mature and somebody who's not mature. That one person's, that a particular person's ready to have that reciprocation based on affection, but they're just waiting for the other person to, put their walls down. It's not that there's some grudge or something, being built up. Oh, this person's not reciprocating with me. Or if somebody does something that's offensive to us, it's not that we hold it against them. In other words, it's not that we don't like them for that, but we still have affection for them, just may be displayed differently. But it's not that there's some some friction, we're holding some, anything like that towards anybody. We shouldn't do that, even if they offend us or whatever. So that's there too. All right, any other online? All right. Grantrad Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Okay, so tomorrow, text 10. Vijay Prabhu.